start coloring the buttercream to the colors that will be needed for the image that we are using as an inspiration. Now here, if I see the number of colors, the first step that you need to do is mark the number of shades that are there to understand how many different shades are there and how you need to mix them. So to start with, say this is 1, that's a lighter yellow, and that's 2, there's a darker yellow. So you can see all the different places where the darker yellow is, and this lighter yellow is in the places where I can just go and mark 1. Okay, even here. And now this number 2 is in these places. So here, by doing this, we understand where exactly the colors that we mix will be used. The next thing is, let me check for the pinks. There's one lightermost pink here. Okay, and this is a bit darker than that. I'm marking it 4. I'm just cross-checking with the lip which is the color, the areas of the lip. The 3 corresponds to this part, right? And this 4 corresponds to this part. Now this will be 5, and this is all even more darker. There is a lighter shade here. This 5 can be here, and these are all darker parts. This can be 6, and then this 6 can be this color as well, and this is a little darker than that. Now this pink corresponds to this shade, which is, you mark it the same, which is 4, and this is 5. This and this seems the same. Okay, now this is a typical red, and you can see there is a typical red here and here. So 6 is the highest number we have, so mark it 7, here 7, and then 7, and there's some red here as well, which is all 7. And you can see there are some reds here. Okay, and this one is even lighter than this yellow. That will be 8, but it's a really lighter shade than that. You can see, and that one is here. That 8 is here, but there is a gray here. You can see all the blues. So I will need a blue, which I will mark it as 9. There is a darker blue here, say number 10. This 9 is here, and some all blacks, and a very dark red is also here. Some purple. Now I already have a 10, and that's 11 for the purple. I'm just checking if there's any more purple left. Okay. There's this bit here, that's 11. And some teal shades I can see, number 12, and that is a darker version of it. The lighter teal is here. Here 12, and that's a one shade darker than that. And all of here you can see browns, all the hair strands browns, number 14. And this is a mustard color, which you can arrive at mixing up some brown and this yellow together will give you this shade. So because it is palette knife, as I am using it on the cake, I can just use my brush, and on a palette I can just mix up the colors and then get the shades in between 2 different shades that I have. For example, now I have a teal, and then there is a darker teal here, which I've marked as 13 as a new color. But as I'm working on palette knife, if I have this lighter shade, the number 12 teal with me, I could add one little bit of black buttercream, or just a toothpick dot of black gel color on this mix and then get it right on the palette itself instead of mixing it in a new color. Okay, so all this can be brown and black. Here this part, say I'll add black, that will be the 14th color. Some of the blues here, this 9, this 10 here, this area can be the 9 itself. That little bit of pink, see which number it corresponds to. So this part can be 3 and 3. There's this 9 and 10. If you see this part, it's not 9, it's not 10, it's in between. So we can just mix up the 9 with a little bit of black, and then you can arrive at this shade. And there are these lighter browns, which can be number 15. This is this brown and this mixed together. That is the same shade which can be used in these places. And some red mixed with black, which can be applied here. So the first step is to completely break down the different shades that you will need with the printout that you've taken. While mixing up the colors, but this is easier to mark how many different shades. Now the highest number that I have marked is 15. So I will need 15 different shades. You can write down the colors, or you just marked it out, and then you can, as you're mixing, you can just compare it with the image. Now when you're actually mixing to compare the right color, it's always the right practice to use the digital version of the image to compare the color rather than the printout, because depending on the printer and the ink that is used inside, the shades kind of change. So now we know how to divide them into how many different kinds of colors are there all over here. But when we are going to mix it, we will cross-check it with a device, which is a mobile. You can see this on this nose area. It is a version darker than this one. Here it's black. That's a darker purple. This is even darker than this and a bit lighter than this one. There's a little bit of teal and a bit of gray. All this we can mix as we go. The main colors can be the 15 colors that we can mix and then keep them in bowls. So now I have a bowl of buttercream. We don't need a lot of each color, so just a little bit of each color is needed. I've just added. So now I have the image that we've edited into the circle. So the best thing about using the device is we could zoom to pick up what shade we'd like to have. So first let me do this darker yellow, for which I have yellow shade of gel color. Let me start with one drop and then match the color with the image. And now the way you compare is just hold the color in the spoon and then see if you've gotten it closer to what you need. There it looks a little lighter. You add another drop. 2. So now I have this yellow that I need to match it up with this shade. By adding more of yellow, it is not getting into that shade because that has a little bit of brown. So I have some brown buttercream that's mixed, from which I'm just going to take a little bit of brown buttercream and not the gel directly, because that will be too much and overpower. So this little brown buttercream I'm going to mix onto the yellow and then check how close I am to the shade in the image that I have. So this is closer to what is there in the image, and once I reach to the right color that I need, I'll just close this box with its lid and then leave it in the refrigerator until I want to use. Okay, so similarly I'll just go ahead and then look out for what next color I want to make, which can be the purple. So next I have some little bit buttercream in a bowl, and then that's lavender shade of the gel color. I'm just going to mix this and then check with the image. So likewise you have to keep mixing the colors that you have, and this is more towards the pink, so I think I'll add one dot of blue and see. So just a little bit of the blue. So I'm mixing the blue and the lavender. In this I'm just going to check with the image, and I have it pretty close to what I want. So this I'm just going to pack and keep. Now for the yellow in between, I'm just going to use a little bit of the yellow that I made earlier, which is this, and add some bit of this purple and some more buttercream to lighten that entire thing, and I'm just going to achieve this lighter yellow in between. Okay, so that's the plain buttercream. So that's the yellow buttercream which I'm adding it here, and that's from the purple, that also a little bit of it I am adding it. So this I'm going to keep it closer to compare. This shade in real matches with this particular yellow that I want to achieve. Okay, by adding more yellow it is just going to take it closer to a proper yellow shade, but for now for this color this matches, and I'm just going to pack this color and keep. The next shade I'd want to do is the brown for the hair. So I'm adding buckeye brown color into this. Let me start with one drop and see what color of brown I get. I'm adding some more. We need to keep in mind the colors deepen, so it's always better to have one shade lighter than what we need in real. So this will match with some part of the browns in the hair, but for a darker version a little bit of black is needed. So I'm just going to transfer some of this into another bowl, so that I would keep it for the lighter brown, and into this I'm just going to darken this a bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black to get a dark brown version. So that's the light brown, and into this we have added some black. Let's add some more brown into this. So that will be for the dark brown, and that will be the light brown, which we started with one brown shade and then we went on to adding a black to get the darker brown version. Similarly, what we need to understand with coloring of the buttercream is, now that I've made these two and some of the shades that's been made right now with the image as reference, you can see we've just marked out quite a bit of shades using the image. There are some 15 different shades, and now we've just seen some of them. So the exact shade that we'd like to make for any image, whatever image that you pick, you need to look at the inspiration image from the device and then get closer to all the different shades that you've marked, and with different other shades from different brands, doesn't matter, but with what you have you can still achieve the shade in the inspiration that you'd like. Say we had created this lighter yellow with a mix of yellow and purple, which should be going here, but if you keep mixing yellow, which takes you to that color, and there's a little bit of purple here, and this had become a combination of these two. But that doesn't have to be the rule all the time, but with this you can check for shade cards in the Google to figure out what color mix up to give you what a unique shade that is there. Like say this is a color which could be purple and a little bit of black. This is all purple, and with a lavender shade that we had got as closer to pink color, but then adding some blue to it gave us the actual purple that we need. So we have to be doing the mixing and matching with different shades. Say suppose you don't have a teal, but then you want to make a teal. So the best thing that you can do when you don't know what shade to add to give you the color that you want to make, but you have some primary colors with you, you could Google for what colors to mix to get a teal. When you do that Google, it will tell you what are the basic colors that you can mix up to give you the shade. So for this teal, what you can ideally do is mix up a green and a blue, and so that is going to get you a teal. And if you just gone a shade darker or lighter, then based on that you can add some more buttercream or say maybe a dot of black to get to the shade that you want. So like so with different mix and match and trials with the colors that you have, and some bit of Google with a shade card that we can use to arrive at the shades that we want, especially for the green for the eyes, just a little bit, but that exact shade is necessary to use it for the pupil to bring out the eyes to life. So I'm just going to continue coloring all the colors and then get ready to start painting on the cake.